Now that came out nice and clean. So xTOOL reached out to me and said, hey, we got this 40-watt laser module. It's the world's most powerful laser module. Would you care to test it? I said, sure. I got some food for the dogs to engrave. Why not? And here we have it. The xTOOL 40-watt laser module kit. All the links to purchase will be down in the description below. And when they say a kit, well, they mean a kit. This box, it almost seems like it should be for a full-blown laser. Oh, look at this. You get a thank you card. Well, thank you, xTOOL. And gives you all the contact information in there for support. And what do we have here? I am actually going to call it what it is. A rebuild guide. Because look at all these steps. You want to like maybe bring it to the bathroom with you or something to give yourself some reading before you begin. It is a lot of steps. You got basically take the whole thing apart and put it back together again. And this is what xTOOL calls the middle plate. Yeah, it's actually a lot more rigid than its predecessor, the xTOOL D1 and D1 Pro. Look at that extrusion. Definitely a lot beefier. Well, that laser head is pretty darn big. And now we have a upgraded power supply. It's a little bit beefier. Yes, it's 200 watts, I believe. Look at that. Look at the size of this thing. And next we have the main control board. Yes, you're going to be replacing the control board as well. Like I said, you're basically tearing apart the machine and rebuilding the whole thing from scratch. So what do we have next? We have the parts storage box. You literally get every replacement screw in here. You even have ones that have Loctite on them. I would suggest that you use these. Don't reuse the ones that have Loctite on them. Use the new ones. And here it is. The big one. Look at this, the size of this thing. This is the 40-watt laser module. Thing is massive. It's got even air assist on the top. Pretty cool. Then you got some lube for those rails. You're going to want to lube it up, I'm sure.
Better to have lube and not need it than need lube and not have it.
A little bit of this will go a long way. And of course we got some cable tie. It's a cable tie pack actually. And then we get a screwdriver. It's a reversible screwdriver. You have Phillips on one side and Allen key on the other. It's nice that you actually get a screwdriver instead. Now, xTOOL calls these sharp nose pliers. I just kind of know them as snips. They look to be really good quality. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. Just got to loosen them up a little bit. Better than the ones I see with the 3D printer. And that's all that's in this box. And here is everything. Alright, let's clear the table. Get some tools out and place down the D1 Pro. Get ready for surgery. And I really hope that you studied this manual because you're going to really need it.
I'll assemble it myself.
First things first, we're going to start taking the wires off. Unplug the module and we're going to snip our zip ties off. All three of them. And get it out of the way. And next we're going to just unplug our optical end stop jumper cable here. Pretty easy. Now we need to unplug all the connectors on this control board. Yeah, it's not that easy. It wasn't that easy to plug these in the first time. So let's go ahead and just unplug all four of them. And there you go. Now's the time to get a power screwdriver if you don't have one. We're going to hold on to this middle plate and we're going to remove all the screws on both sides and then lift it out of the way. Now we're going to replace the position limit control boards. Just takes 2 screws and you got to be mindful of the spacers underneath. As you see, one just went for a little bit of a walk. There it is. I'm going to just place those spacers right back there. You notice that the new position limit control board has bigger sensors on the sides. And we want to make sure that we use that one. And we're going to place it in just make sure that your orientation is correct, and we're going to just send both screws in. Since I'm using a power screwdriver, I just want to be a little bit careful with this. So I would rather just use one of these. Now my favorite term, we're going to remove the optical shaft. Still don't know why they call it that. So take that out and just pull it away from the belt. Now it's time to remove the main control board and replace it with the new one. There's 4 screws that hold it in place. And for this, yes, I'm using their supplied screwdriver because you gotta get through those holes in the frame to get to those screws. Once you get that last screw out, you want to gently lift up and pull the control board out. Gently, don't just yank it, because look what we have here. Wire.
This requires unusual precaution.
And I grab one of my favorite tweezers here and go underneath and just try to lift it straight up. Now this is a very delicate connection. It's like a IPEX RF connector. And you want to firmly push right in the center, snap it back in to the new control board. You're going to take your new control board and you can lift it above those risers where the screws go into. And then you're going to just make sure it's nice and seated in there. Then we're just going to screw it into place with the 4 screws. And just make sure it's nice and snug, no reason to over tight. It's a control board, just snug will do. And we're going to plug in our stepper motor right into here. And we're going to replace this position limit piece right here. This is adjustable depending on which head that you have on, so that way it just travels the correct length. Remove the 2 screws, and since we're using the 40 watt, we want to make sure that this is all the way back, just like this. And then we're going to replace the position limit piece B. Just use the 2 screws and all done. Now we're going to put our coupler back on our optical shaft. And then we're going to insert it to make sure that we grab onto that belt. And you're going to want to just make sure it's also inside with that bearing. Slide your coupler over so it's covering the shaft of both your stepper motor and the optical shaft. And we're going to just make sure that both these screws are nice and snug. And that's it. We definitely want to make sure that our middle plate brackets are both aligned perfectly. You can adjust the tension on the belts and make them loose, move one plate over, but mine are aligned, and I just want to make sure the belt tension is correct. Let's go ahead and remove these zip ties. Careful not to cut the wire or the loom. Now this middle plate is definitely a lot beefier. Which is nice is that these actually have notches on the side that holds it in place. And it almost self-aligns. It'd be nice if the D1 Pro had this feature. Definitely want to make sure that you're not reusing the screws. You want to grab the new ones that have the red Loctite on, and we're going to use the 4 on each ends here. You're going to start the screw, and then you can secure the other one all the way in, and then go back and secure both screws again. Do the same for the other side, and you'll see that we still have one more screw. That is for our belt tensioner. And this one's going to require the blue Loctite one. Again, don't reuse the old ones. That's why they give you more. I'm not going to tighten this all the way down because there's a belt tensioner screw on the side. Now we're going to just go ahead and plug in our wiring harness. And then we have 4 this time for this control board. It might have been easier if I would plug these in first when I had the control board out. Food for thought for the next time someone does this. But I got them all in. Go ahead and secure your wire harness with 3 zip ties. Now I need to find those clippings. Install your jumper wire for your end stops. And then plug in your middle plate stepper motor. Would you believe it? We're almost all done. But I want to take a trip down memory lane here. Here's the 10 watt. Yeah, it's still a pretty big laser module. I don't have the 5, but I have the 10. And now let's take a look at the 20 watt laser module. Now, when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is massive. And it still is. But now, let's go ahead and take a look at the 40 watt. Yeah, adds a whole new element to how big these laser modules are getting. I really never thought that they would get to a 40 watt. Look at the size of this thing. All the adjustments are the same on the 20 watt. That's with the 40 watt. Minus it has the air assist right in the middle, which is a nice touch. And here's just a couple more pictures of them all side by side. It's just pretty cool to see the evolution of a product like this. And the power is just amazing. It just fits in the palm of your hand now, doesn't it? At least mine. Now installation is the same as all the other D1s. It's a dovetail type groove here, but now you have a different latch to hold the wire in place. Snap in the connector here, and now you have an extra 2-pin for this laser module. And then just go ahead and swing that latch over, and that'll help secure the wire in place. I really wish they would have changed this connection system, especially you're going to be replacing it, a module like with the IR. Again, it's the same process as the D1 Pro. That's how you go ahead and adjust the height. However, now you have a magnetic shield. That's a nice touch. Now would be a good time to re-lube your rails. Go ahead and wipe them down, and let's apply just a little bit of lube across the rails. You don't need much. As you see, I'm not going all the way down, just about halfway. And then what you're going to do is just move your gantry around. Just slide it around backwards, forwards a couple times, just to get the lube around all the rails. And you also want to inspect it to make sure the rails have no debris on it. And that's about it.
Lubed and ready to go.
Now let's go ahead and plug it in. We're going to first label. I like to label my power supplies. Call me weird, but I got a ton of them, and sometimes I just don't know where they belong. I'm going to then go ahead and plug in by USB and power, and then I'm going to turn it on. Now we're going to launch xTOOL Creative Suite, and we're going to check for an update. And of course it does, because this is going to be needed to control our new 40-watt module. So let's go ahead and update the software, and then it should detect it right when you plug it in. And you're going to just select it, hit OK, and then hit Next. Now when you click on the little gear, you can see that it says the 40 watt, which is nice. But now we want to just double check to make sure there's no firmware needed for it. All good to go. All on the latest firmware and software. But before we continue any further, I'd like to discuss safety. Disclaimer, and safety first. This video is for entertainment purposes only. You are following these instructions at your own risk. Always wear approved eye protection. People and animals not wearing protection should stay away. And I am not responsible if you do not become a pro after watching this video. These lasers are very dangerous to operate, and they could release some pretty toxic gases from whatever you're engraving. So I would suggest that you are in a well-ventilated area, possibly using an enclosure and venting to the outside. I will be using an enclosure and a filtration system with mine. I suggest that you do the same. Vent outside, use an enclosure, filtrate the air, so you're not breathing any of it in. Now let's continue on. I'm going to start with my Spoilboard with 3D printed leg mounts, D1 with the 40 watt, honeycomb bed, and the enclosure. And again, I am using a filtration system. Now I'd like to introduce today's video sponsor. And today's video sponsor is PCBWay. Are you looking for a PCB? Well, look no further than PCBWay. They're their one-stop shop for your PCB and manufacturing needs. Want to just generate a quote? It's pretty simple. You could do a standard PCB, advanced PCB, you could do a FTC rigid flex PCB, you could do some assembly, and you can also do SMD stenciling. But that's not it. They also offer CNC and also 3D printing. It's literally a one-stop shop for all your needs. You're looking for a little project to do? Look at the shared projects. And you could go ahead and basically order a whole kit and just do a little project that someone else has created. It's a great community section to share your ideas and have other people build the projects that you are working on. And I would like to thank PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Now let's continue on to the xTOOL 40 watt laser module. As mentioned, the focusing is the same for the D1 Pro as well with the 40 watt module. You loosen the latch on the left, bring down the lever on the right, then secure the latch on the left and bring up the lever. That easy. Then if you're going to cut or engrave thicker materials, you're going to want to make sure that the millimeter is adjusted. So if you're going to do a really deep cut, you're going to bring that focusing all the way down, because you want to make sure that that laser is as close as it's going to get, because the inside actually moves up and down for that. I'm going to start out here in xTOOL Creative Space. I got to make sure that I'm connected. Everything is connected to the 40 watt laser module. Good. And I have this design here. We're going to engrave some bamboo. Now I'm just testing out here, and I'm going to do a manual. I'm going to do 30 on power and 175 on speed. I'm going to hit framing, and I'm going to have to hit the button on the D1 Pro 40 watt to do the framing, and then once it's done framing, I'm going to then hit start, and then I'm going to have to hit the button again to confirm. This is just the same operation as the D1 Pro. It's a safety thing. That way it knows that you're there. As you can see, it took just over an hour to complete. If you want it darker, just increase the power a little bit, but it came out rather nice. Now I cannot emphasize enough, do not attempt to do this. There's going to be YouTubers out there demoing this, and this is a 2x4, and just do not do this. This is at 3 millimeters per second at one pass at 100% power, and you can see how deep this goes. And this is just on one pass. It's amazing.
Do not do it!
Now here I'm doing 2 millimeters per second at 100% power. I'm going to attempt 3 passes on here. And you can see that is definitely going even deeper. And now you can see a little bit of a flame there. Let's take a look. Well, very, very close. You can see the edge there. And this is what not to do. I'm going to attempt to do 5 passes, 2 millimeters per second at 100% power. As you can see, nothing too different from the first time. Again, 2 millimeters per second, 100% power. We are going to attempt 5 passes. Speed this up. 1 pass, 2 pass, 3rd pass. This is where I stopped the last time. Now, 4th pass. Shortly, you're going to see a flame develop as it goes on to the 5th pass, and the alarm is going to go off, indicating that there's a fire. And yes, a fire. You look at that. That's why you don't leave your machines unattended. Do not do this when you receive your unit at all. The laser is intended to be more powerful to reduce your time, like this. Cutting out this heart, this was at 100% power at 6 millimeters per second. This would have taken 3 passes with the 20 watt laser diode. Now you're decreasing your time by 2/3. So, and I do have air assist hooked up. As you can see, everything just falls out. That's what this laser is about, is giving you some more power to decrease your cycle time, your workflow, give you more time to do other things. Nice clean cut, and all the pieces just fall right out. That's what this laser is intended to do. Here I have some 20 millimeter poplar wood. Now, it's best that you do faster speed and more passes. So this is going at 10 millimeters per second at 100% power with 6 passes on the letters. Now, with the border here, to cut the whole thing out, I'm doing 12 passes. Now with wood, you're going to be fighting like grains and stuff. I noticed the border didn't drop, so I just repeated the passes. So these settings may not work for you. It's always best to experiment. But as you can see, I could just lift out the piece of wood here, and that came right out. And you can see that I'm actually using some magnets to hold it in place. And let's take out this. Oh, look at that. And of course I was using air assist. Perfect. Now if you were on xTOOL's live stream for this, they showed that this could cut through 0.1 millimeter of steel. I'm doing 20 millimeters per second at 90% power. Now these sheets that I had a little bit of a waviness to it, and I'm holding them down with some magnets. As you can see, it is cutting through. And let's go ahead and speed this up. Problem is this metal was already warped and to begin with. Now with all the heat, it's definitely a lot worse. Now you definitely want to use a honeycomb bed with this laser module. But as you can see, it's kind of like sticking to it. It's kind of like welded. I did manage to get it off and knock out the letters, and I tried to straighten it the best that I could. Still a little wavy. Now it wasn't my intention to join these two together, but let's go ahead and do it. Let's take some spray adhesive, coat both sides, and test for tackiness. And then we're gonna push it on there. We're gonna use some clamps, push it together, And I'm gonna unpack my Christmas gift, Ryobi palm sander. Still got some waviness in there, and try to push it down a little bit more, but we're gonna just sand it up and scuff it up a little bit. Try to age it, get rid of some of that glossiness using different grits of sandpaper, and get rid of it and make it distressed a little bit. I think it actually came out not too bad. So, what do you think about it? Leave a comment below. But now I still have the inserts that were cut out. What happens if I just place them in there? I think that actually looks better. You basically can make two signs or just have the one. I kind of like the contrast. What do you think? Now you could just glue them in, or you could put another backer board, and now you have like a kind of a metal sign. I think that's pretty darn cool. Now, this did require a lot of testing. And again, the material settings could be different for you. So I would suggest that you go to xTOOL's website, and right now they have the 20-watt version of the material settings on there. And you could go to the D1 Pro, and you can scroll through, and you can get an understanding of what like the 20-watt version and what those settings are. Then you could adjust it to your 40-watt version. Now currently there isn't a 40-watt version here, and that happened to me also when I received the 20-watt a little bit early. So I would assume that xTOOL will update this material spreadsheet for you, and you will give a better understanding of where to go at the beginning of your cutting and engraving endeavors. Now I didn't forget Bear and Oreo, and make sure that they kind of get some love for the next holiday, which is Valentine's Day. I did a poll on my my YouTube there, and someone suggested that I do some Valentine's tortillas. So that's what's happening right now. And of course, like always, I do taste it before they do. I'm not going to feed something to my dogs that I wouldn't eat myself. Yes, I have even sampled their dog bones. Milk bones, that is. I just don't understand what the flavor is all about. And this was done at 25 millimeters per second at 50% power. Did a nice engraving on it. And of course, I got to take a little bit of a sample bite, and gave them each half. There you go, Bear. And here you go, Oreo. You got to tell her to take it nice. And off she goes. Well, I really appreciate you tuning in to Tripod's Garage. Please have a wonderful day, evening, or weekend, or whenever you decide to watch this video. Thanks again for tuning in. See you the next time on Tripod's Garage.